A bit of Hapless Voyager is not just a bunch of stories. It is a collection of snapshots to a life which many people contributed to. Without them, it would have been a different life, a different story, and a different book. That's why it's special, because like a person's life, this one could not have been written by anybody but Satyartha. And it could not have been crowned better by anyone but Imtiaz, whose keen insights and thoughtful foreword played a valuable role in shaping the Hapless Voyager. We thank you. I hope that if you haven't read the book yet, you will find time to. It will move you and you will be happy he wrote it. Thank you.
So before we invite the author and the esteemed guest who's there, there's a small request that came in. So we have with us Shahnawaz ji and Rauf Saab. Both of them are musicians, classical musicians from the Delhi Gharana. And they play here very often, but we did want to give them a bit of a chance to sort of render their composition. We hope that you enjoy it.
दिल्ली घराने का एक तराना, इसके बोले डियर नादर्श।
kick it off. Thanks everyone for making it. You've come from everywhere. I just feel very overwhelmed with gratitude. Imtiaz, there's something that it just struck me that the three of us used to live close to Moinul Haq Stadium. Amrita was opposite the Moinul Haq Stadium. So this is a mohalla called Rajendra Nagar where we all grew up. And the premise here is that we lost Imtiaz to Jamshedpur. So we want the son of our soil back. So there's quite a few from Patna here barricking for Imtiaz. So on that note, Amrita, we are in your hands. You don't have to treat us with respect.
Yeah, I'm pretty overwhelmed to be sharing this unveil with two very good souls, I should say. This was not the beginning of how I thought I would start this session, but I'm pretty overwhelmed. As you start to walk on the path appears. There could be no better way to start this mehfil than these words by Rumi, one of Satyarth's favorite poets. We are gathered here to talk about a journey, a voyage that started from the bylines of a colony called Rajendra Nagar in Patna, moved to the Delhi of 1990s, and then to the vibrant city of Melbourne in Australia. And to talk about this, I have the person himself who has traversed this journey, as well as someone who has gained global fame by chronicling the journeys of some striking characters, from a garrulous young girl in Jab We Met to a rock star, and from a storyteller in Tamasha to a highwayman. And while the life journeys of these two gentlemen may seem disparate, they share a common beginning and a friendship that has stood the test of time and time zones. तो आइए आगाज करें आज की इस खूबसूरत शाम का, and let's dive into this without any further ado. When I was preparing for this session, it struck me how both these gentlemen have truly lived up to their names. एक ने कसीर इम्तियाजी हासिल की है, तो दूसरे ने सदा सत्य के अर्थ को समझने की कोशिश की है. Ladies and gentlemen, without further delay, we will move on to the session. Satyarth, आपसे शुरुआत करते हैं. कैसा लग रहा है now that the book is out there and is receiving gushing reviews? What do you have to say to all of us?
So I won't give the mic. Am I audible?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay. So look, it's not a launch. This is my life. All of you here. It's an extraordinary set of people, and someone who's been with me through thick and thin is here. I don't know whether you've seen Imtiaz shoot, but he doesn't look at the time of the day or night, and he's right in the middle of one of the shoots. So he's here. I'm done, frankly. I lived for this day. I started to write 15 years ago, sporadically, and then I shared some of my musings with Imtiaz and a few other people. But the trigger was when Imtiaz read one of the chapters. I think he was traveling, and he said, "You take the reader there." Those of us who know Imtiaz, he's a man of brevity. He's a man of very few thoughtfully crafted words. That's him. That set me off. एक जुनूनी जंग हो गई अपने आप से. Mriga knows this because she's offered me a lot of literary empathy. This is a word that was coined just because Mriga and I partnered and I discovered it. I was writing unbridled, unencumbered, and I just wanted to get this book out, though I didn't know what it has. I'm not a remarkable man. And with the encouragement I had from Imtiaz, from Satyartha Mishra, who's here, he said, "You will change the world." And he's always been a senior who went to all these universities in the US. So I thought he was mocking me, but it turned out to be encouragement. So treat me with patience. It may not be a great piece of work, but this is my life at the end of the day. So I don't need to live another day, Amrita. I've got what I need. I'm done.
That's clearly visible in your eyes in case of that. Now, moving on to the next question, so to say, take us through the journey, or should I say the voyage, of the Hapless Voyager. When did you first think about writing this, and what was the highs and lows of your writing journey?
So, I don't know if you read the book, there's a foreword by the good man himself. And I don't want to praise him too much because I don't need to. He'll be kind to me anyway. But what Imtiaz has written always rang true. I was never writing for anyone. I was never writing to an audience. Ironically, that's the opposite of what I do in my profession, doing deals for tech companies. So I just had to write for myself. And Imtiaz has quoted a beautiful share from Mead. And I had this inkling. I had this itch to write. So for instance, if you look at the chapter called the Tanku, my friends from Ford School of Management, that was the Tapri, Chai Tapri, opposite the school, and that is where I sought refuge. I was very overawed by the big lights and the big cars that came into Ford School of Management. And that's also a convenient excuse for me not to do well at school. But Tanku gave me a lot of love. And when he died, and I saw it on my phone, Amrita, I was on a flight to Sydney and I wrote the chapter Tanku in exactly 20 minutes. And so I write it for myself, and Imtiaz picked it up and he's very kindly written that in the foreword. So I've been writing sporadically 14, 15 years, and then, through encouragement that I received, I thought I'll double down and do something meaningful, other than living a mediocre life where you try and raise a family, try and do a job, not very successfully sometimes. So I thought this is it. This is why I've made. I have to share my haplessness with everyone. That's all I have to offer. So that's really it.
Brilliantly put. So now, everybody has been wondering for so long that the title, The Hapless Voyager, is pretty intriguing. Why did you choose to describe yourself?
Because that's who I am, Amrita. We'll keep it short because everyone's here to see my dear friend. So, look, because Mriga and I had a lot of chats, and she was not amused with the title. So one day I was at a farm in a God-forsaken place, and it just struck me that my life is anything but one that's lived by design or choice, and hence the word hapless. And I'm the unlikeliest person with the most mediocre of faculties to have somehow gotten from one place to another. So the Voyager. So I thought there was nothing more befitting than the Hapless Voyager. It may smack of narcissism, but it's not anything distinguished, so to speak. So,
Any other word that came as a close contender to hapless when you were thinking of the title?
I am wanting to इसका अनुवाद करना है मुझे हिंदी में, उर्दू में. तो किसी के साथ बैठा था, तो it just not spoken to Briga about it or any of my collaborators, but मैंने सोचा कि इसमें ये भी लिख जा सकता है, कहाँ से गुजर गए, could be another title. I mean, just was डगर गए types. ये हो गया तुम्हारे साथ. Then I've got very distinguished people. Sujita, who hired me from campus, and I was hapless because I only did GD well, and he hired me. And thanks for coming, Sujita. Then someone who sent me overseas, Rajat Ganguly. Rajat Da is here. I just wrote a greeting card to him, and he called me and he said, "तू कहाँ चला गया? तू कहाँ चला गया?" I said, "छोड़ दिया क्योंकि मैनेजर बहुत गाली बकता था." So he said, "कहाँ जाएगा? मलेशिया जाएगा कि सिंगापुर जाएगा?" So and that's how life took. And I was always up for these misadventures because when you don't have too much to look forward to, otherwise you just leap at all these happenstances, so to speak. So that's really where it came from.
Totally agreed. So that some questions for Imtiaz ji. सत्यार्थ ने अपने आप को हैप्लेस कहा है. अगर आपको कोई लफ्ज यूज करना हो, इस्तेमाल करना हो, आप अपने आप को इस एक लफ्ज से अपनी जर्नी को बताना चाहेंगे?
आप ये बताइए कि अब रूट नंबर क्या था आपका?
मेरा कोई रूट नंबर नहीं था.
रोल नंबर राजेंद्र नगर में रोड नंबर.
स्टेडियम के जस्ट सामने, ऑपोजिट मोइनुल हक स्टेडियम.
वो जो बिल्डिंग थी, फ्लैट्स थे.
नॉट फ्लैट्स, इंडिपेंडेंट हाउस,
अच्छा,
कृष्णा
sorry.
निकेत.
कृष्णा जी के
एकदम सामने, एकदम सामने,
हम
मेन
लोग,
गेट के एकदम सामने.
अच्छा
तो हम लोग यहाँ क्रिकेट खेलते थे, उससे थोड़ा
अच्छा ओके. आप तो पैदा भी नहीं हुई होंगी जब हम लोग वहाँ बस स्टैंड में जाया करते थे.
नहीं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है.
90s की बात है ना? नहीं, 80s की बात है. 80 मनीष इज हियर, हमारा क्लासमेट. सो क्या था वो, 85 86 ऐसे कुछ था.
I must be in grade 2 then.
ग्रेड 2.
Yeah.
हाँ, दैट्स व्हाई वी मिस्ड यू. बट बहुत खुशी की बात है आप यहाँ हैं. बहुत सारे लोग यहाँ हैं पटना से और अलग अलग जगह से. पटना इज जस्ट अ वेरी typical place. I feel every time I go to Patna, I feel that people are so intelligent. When I was here, why didn't I get it? And बाहर जाकर के पता चलता है कि ये लोग बड़े ज़हीन हैं. There was a time when they were known all over the world as Ashok and Budh and all of that. And now we have Satyartha and Manish and yourself trying to reclaim that position in the Indian glory. But hapless is a great term. I feel Satyartha has been proactive and taken that for himself, but it pretty much describes not only him and myself, but a whole generation of us that were trying to understand the new world and trying to understand a world where suddenly travel was eminently possible. I feel when Satyartha and I were in school, we couldn't have ever thought that we'd go abroad, ever. And we knew very few people that had gone abroad, in fact. And now we are so multicultural and most of us travel here and there. He has worked in several countries. I've been to a few countries myself, and we were hapless in that journey, but the fact was that we had very little to hold on to, so we rushed towards the opportunities that presented themselves, and many of us would be nowhere if the world had not changed. So rather than regret and rue the fact that things have changed, we actually, I feel, are a generation that looked at new opportunities and went in those directions. I feel his book, although not directly, but is also a measure of that. And I feel at the end of it all, in a time and in a life where all of us try to make ourselves special, the only thing of real value is spoken when you don't have the fear that anyone is listening. It's like the difference between the poetry of Mir versus the poetry of other people of his time, because Mir wasn't even aware that anybody is going to read his poems, ever. He was just writing because, or let's say a painter like Van Gogh didn't know that his paintings are going to be seen by anybody, so he wasn't sticking to a form. He just had to paint because that is how he could stay sane. And not to that extent, but some of us have the necessity. This drive to write is not really a desire, but a necessity, because it keeps us sane. Much of art, much of music also sometimes drives from a province like that. And I feel Satyartha, in trying to write for himself, has produced something precious that might not be directly relevant to us, but it's definitely inspirational. And there are resonant frequencies that are going to strike at various times. this is not the answer to your question, hapless, but I feel that I would also describe myself as hapless.
Thank you. I'm talking about your friendship that started 40 years ago. I'm sure you had many friends at St. Michael's. What is special about Satyartha that this bond is still there? And
well, it just strikes me that this is a very appropriate place for us to be called, because when you live so many years in your life, then there is a certain preciousness that comes into you because you become antique. So I feel that it's a very appropriate location, Satyartha. तुमने बहुत मतलब जोरी की आंखें तुम्हारी ऐसी जगह चुनी है कि हम लोग भी अब इसके काबिल हो गए। और क्या बोला आपने? मैं
40 साल की इस दोस्ती में कई दोस्त बने होंगे। सत्यार्थ में ऐसा क्या खास है कि अभी तक वो बॉन्ड है? और
आई थिंक क्या होता है ना कि उस जमाने में हम लोगों को पता नहीं था कि हम एक दूसरे से कभी मिलेंगे या नहीं मिलेंगे। उस वक्त हमने ऐसी कोई कोशिश नहीं की कि हम दोस्ती निभाएंगे या ऐसा कुछ करेंगे ना, बिकॉज उस वक्त ना फोन होता था, घरों में फिर होने लगा, तब नंबर ही नहीं था हमारे यहाँ एक दूसरे का। एक दिन क्योंकि स्कूल में भी आई वॉज इन पटना फॉर फ्यू ईयर्स, तो उसमें आई न्यू हिम, ही न्यू मी, एंड देन many then it got over. Then I moved out of Patna when I was in the 8th standard. Then I went back to Jamshedpur, then till the 12th I was there. Then I came to Delhi, and then I was in Hindu college, and I was doing theatre, I was doing studies. Actually, I was just doing theatre, no studies. And then there's some place called Jaising Lawn. Jaising Lawn is the place where he used to give us उधार में वो चाय पिलाता था जैसिंग। तो I was there with some friends, and someone screamed from behind, "It's girls!" And it's a girl's voice. So I turned and looked, and there were these few people there, and there was Satyartha, and I walked up, and he said that, "I thought it's you." So I told one of my friends, and she just screamed your name, that in case it is me, then I'll turn, because we had met each other even at that point after a decade or so, more than maybe. So that's how we met again. The fact that we did meet at that point of time, and then we kept in touch. And क्या होता है कि somebody you've known for that long in your life becomes a resource, and that's what happened with us.
सत्यार्थ, आपसे इस दोस्ती के बारे में भी दो शब्द बहुत खास है।
What can I say? He never forgets. He's a rock for friends and family. He's there. He's been there, and he's here today. He was shooting. And I've seen his shoots. They go blind. पर इसने हमेशा वक्त निकाला है. He's always been there. He never forgets. लगेगा कि बहुत सारे काम कर रहा है, obviously बहुत व्यस्त रहता है. But he's there. And what can I say?
Remarkable. Now, talking about the non-linear approach that you've taken to in writing the Hapless Voyager. Don't you think a sequential approach would have been better for some readers at least, if not for all?
So, look, I spoke to my wife about it, by the way. I have to mention her because she's watching. And Jayashree, because of her, thanks to her, she's been there. So, she lets me do all these crazy things, like writing a book and quit a job to write a book. So, I had a word with her. I said, ये सारे पन्ने हो गए हैं on the laptop. And she said, you should write. इम्तियाज ने भी कहा था, सतीश भैया also said. फैज एक हमारा दोस्त है, साथ में मनीष फैज अहमद. उसने लिखा, so he ran Apple, by the way. And he said, फोड़ दियो. छोड़ दियो. He just he's also got brevity and he's crisp. So I then thought कि लिखना तो पड़ेगा. And then I had the same conversation with Mriga. But prior to that, there's a man I would like to name. His name is Bobby Galinsky. And before our vintage, there was a film called Flatliners. Bobby is 72. Bobby wrote the screenplay, but he didn't get the credit for it. लेकिन पैसे खूब मिले. So I had the privilege of meeting such people, older, wiser, and who had done creative work. Of course, someone right next to me is the maestro. And Bobby said to me, whatever you write, it should not be linear, Amrita. He said, you lose the reader. तो वो बात घर कर गई कहीं ना कहीं. And when Mriga and I started to go through this, I said to her, I was very stout in saying to her, in telling her off, saying, ये एक के बाद एक नहीं बनेगी ये किताब. So when you're bilingual, your chemistry is also different. So I said, मुझे ऐसे लिखना है कि जो भी पढ़ने वाला वो कहीं से भी उठा करके पढ़ सके. क्योंकि ऐसे भी अगर चार्ट होगा किताब इन पटना टर्म्स, अगर बहुत बोर होगी तो पब्लिक ऐसे भी छोड़ देगा. तो you may as well write disparate chapters, and then if it works, it works. Otherwise, at least you've gone to the rooftop and shouted your story. So that's how it came about.
Thank you. We have seen a similar approach that इम्तियाज जी आप भी अपनी फिल्मों में non-linear ही approach का इस्तेमाल करते हैं. So कुछ खास है इसके बारे में कि it works better?
Thoughts don't come in a linear fashion to a human brain. It's I might think of something that happened when I was in the 8th standard, to which Satyartha could be party. Then I might think of something right now or of yesterday, and that's the sequence my mind is taking. It's not as though if I have to think about memory, I'll even think of it in sequence. Sequence is a style that is actually taken on by storytelling sometimes, and believe that this chronology is what the human mind actually goes through, but it doesn't, because feelings don't go in a sequence. When you look at a person and you love that person, you might remember different things at different times, and so I think one should go, or it's easier to go in the sequence of how you feel things and just put them down and get out of the way. So sometimes when my films have been non-linear, I've tried to do that.
And those have been very well appreciated by the audience, yes.
Not all of them.
Somewhat.
Writing a memoir requires incredible vulnerability. What was the most difficult chapter that you found that it was really difficult for you to write?
See, when I set out to write a chapter, it didn't appear to be difficult. But this turned out to be, and it sounds rather stereotypical, but it is cathartic, so everyone should write. Especially, there are not many mediocre people in the room, but people like me have a need to write. So when I wrote this chapter, for instance, which is on my father, called Papa, my favorite as well, right? So, the whole lifetime went through me. So I wrote that chapter, and then I added a bit of it. And then Mriga and I had a discussion. She said, there's a lot in there, and the reader will look for more. So those nudges really work. So I was adamant that Mriga won't touch a word of what I write. I was just paranoid about anything to be taken to be misconstrued. So when I started to put it all together, piece it all in, write more, I had a day when I was just crying in the rain, quite literally. And I would come back and write, and I just didn't know what had happened. I didn't feel the pressure of going somewhere, doing something. Kids have grown up. But I just cried for one whole day. Morning to late. I was eating Subway, a sandwich in Subway, and I was crying. And my wife, Jess, she said to me, "Kya hua tumko aaj?" She'd never seen that side of me. So look, vulnerability is we are all vulnerable at the end of the day. And I would like to make a point here about Imtiaz's films. Aside from being, a very dear friend, I'm a big follower and I wear his work on my sleeve. तो जो भी मुझे जानता है उसको पता है कि इम्तियाज की सारी फिल्में उसको पता है. And when I saw Rockstar, I saw it twice, by the way, because it just took me away. And I wrote him an email. I wrote him a longish email, I remember. So, we are all vulnerable, and the point I'm trying to make about Imtiaz is not placate him. The friendship has stood the test of time, so ab kya karega? There's no escaping. But there is one person who's been able to depict vulnerability of men in any form of art. There is a paragon, and that is Imtiaz. So we are all vulnerable. Men can be more vulnerable because women have more resilience and inner strength. So we look up to women, right? So there's no one better than Imtiaz who puts it out there. वो पागल हो गया, वो भाग गया, right? So that is Imtiaz. So it's all there in us. And art and life are connected, as you see in his films, and we are all vulnerable, so we shouldn't pretend to be otherwise.
Both of you are very passionate about your craft, and actually, well said, Satyartha, we are all very vulnerable. We just try to hide our vulnerabilities. I don't know why and for whom, but yes, we are all vulnerable. I have been asked to kind of, speed up the thing. So one last bit. If you were to travel back in time, both of you, this is for both of you, and Imtiaz ji, if you had to say something to the 12-year-old Satyartha, what would that be? Anything you want to tell him, like?
Yeah, I would say that तुम अपना stance थोड़ा ठीक करो क्रिकेट का. तुम्हारा लेफ्ट साइड स्ट्रॉन्ग है, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि तुम एकदम पीटी दिखा दो बॉलर को. थोड़ा दोनों तरफ खेलो, वरना सारा फील्डर उधर डाल देगा. ऐसे this is what I would have told him. And but I was telling Auntie, that is his mother, that the happiest thing of today for me, more than even the book, is the chance I get to meet her. I remember आपके हाथ का जो पराठा और अचार आप भेजती थी इसके टिफिन में, उसका स्वाद हमको अभी भी याद है. एंड एक्चुअली हम इसका टिफिन लेने की कोशिश करते थे ताकि, मगर ये देता नहीं था हमेशा. अभी बहुत बड़ी बड़ी बात कर रहा है, अच्छा बोल रहा है. उस वक्त इतना ऐसे कोई उसने ना काइंडनेस नहीं दिखाया करता था. काफी मतलब अपने आप को ढेर बरियार समझता था. है भी बरियार. तो काफी बरियार था ये. तो हमेशा ऐसे काइंडनेस नहीं दिखाया करता था. अभी बहुत रेट्रोस्पेक्ट में ही अपने आप को बहुत मतलब अच्छा लगा समझ रहा है. तो उस वक्त मिलता नहीं था, मगर थोड़ा सा जो मिलता था उसका स्वाद अभी भी हमको याद है. आपसे मिल करके बहुत ज्यादा खुशी हो रही है हमको. कुछ दिन पहले हम मनीष की मम्मी से भी मिले थे, उसके घर में जाकर के, और बड़ा अच्छा लगता है इस वक्त इस एक दूसरे से मिलने में, क्योंकि सबके पास बहुत कुछ है कहने को. पहले तो यही था कि जूडी कावेल और आरडी कोस्टा और जेफडी कोस्टा इसी सारे कौन स्विमिंग पूल में कूद गया, यही सब बातें होती थी. अब बहुत कुछ है कि क्या हुआ जिंदगी में बात करने के लिए. सो आई थिंक इट बिकम वेरी प्रेशियस फॉर ईच अदर. जो बोलना है अभी ही बोल सकते हैं, वापस जाकर के बोलने की और कोई जरूरत नहीं, एक्सेप्ट फॉर द स्टांस इन क्रिकेट.
I was very influenced by Mohammad Azharuddin actually, and his flicks. So Imtiaz, I don't know from where he remembers things like Steel Ka Tiffin. I mean, she was very emotional when she saw Imtiaz's video, and the stance for that matter. मैं क्या इसको नसीहत दूंगा इम्तियाज को. I mean, he's there for everyone to see. There's one side of him which I saw जो कि इसको याद भी नहीं था. कई साल हमारी बातचीत, बहुत लंबी बात होती है, लंबे अरसे के बाद मिलते हैं. तो इम्तियाज वेरी डिटर्मिन्ड एंड ही वाज व्हेन ही वाज आल्सो यंग. तो नॉर्मली ही वाज हैप्पी गो लकी, लेकिन एक दो चीजों पे ये अड़ जाता था. And there's a story in the book, the title is called The Catholic School. It starts with a story that I had to remind Imtiaz that he tries to protect me. और इसके जहन से निकल गई थी बात ये. He said, नहीं वो मैं हो ही नहीं सकता हूँ. And I remember because it was an act of kindness. So I'm just grateful that we're still friends. 12 साल की उम्र में तो यही भागते रहो, इधर उधर खेलते रहो. Imtiaz spoke about my mother, Razia auntie, Imtiaz's mother. Auntie was very kind to me. पहली बार मैंने नमकीन लस्सी तुम्हारे घर पी थी. हाँ, छाछ टाइप का. और खिलाती थी मुझे हमेशा. तो इम्तियाज का भाई एक छोटा आरिफ, he was like the kid brother that we used to dote on back then. But auntie was very kind to me every time I went. वहीं सामने में खेला करते थे हम लोग कभी. तो कुछ भी नहीं है. I am glad, I mean, I think all of us can be grateful that he turned out the way he has, right? We wouldn't want Imtiaz in any other way. He does fearless, timeless work, जो कि आज के लिए नहीं हमेशा रहेगा. तो कुछ तो बात है इसमें. कुछ बस नंबर 6 में भी सीखा होगा शायद इसने. कुछ पटना ने भी सिखाया होगा शायद. But there's no other way I'll have Imtiaz. Yeah.
Now, I'm sure audience, everybody sitting in the audience also have a lot of questions for both of them. So, over to all of you. I can go on and on asking many, many more questions, but yes.
But you conducted this very well. She did very well.
Because people from Rajendra Nagar typically end up surviving and sometimes doing well, like Amrita did.
Thank you so much. Questions for both Imtiaz ji and Satyartha?
Not a question, but I just forgot to say that.
Sure,
that
please.
For me, Jumpy Net is like a therapy.
Ji.
When I am down and out, I see the movie and I'm back again.
Lovely,
Thank
lovely.
you for that.
But
What
congratulations to have created such a wonderful place. And the Haveli over there under the neem tree, I didn't want to leave from there. I'm still going to go back there. Very, very well done. And
Stay there also.
I will. Very, very nice. And I was also very happy to meet your team. What's the name of Ashna and her team. Yeah,
Ashna,
historians. And I said you are local historians. So one of the ladies there said that no, just take the historian out of that. I'm just a local.
The variant.
So even the way you talk has value, because you belong to this place.
And Talish, who has brought us all together. A big round of applause for Talish. आज की दुनिया में, if you want to look up to a person, if you want to know someone who has empathy, doesn't like inequality, and is very seriously very senior attorney at a young age, with a massive heart, that's Talish. So thank you, Talish, for bringing us all together.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure, but I will also tell you that he's been incentivized to say all these nice things. Simply because I told him that the way out, if he has to find a way out, he will lead me on the way out.
She's got a bit of Australian pun in her, but she's feeling very miserably.
So she's also a rock star for us also.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you.
But wonderful.
Jaya, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, so,
Jaya, a great friend of ours from
So wonderful, to be here at the launch. So what was really interesting towards the end is when you mentioned that Satyartha didn't have that kind of kindness then. It came back like a full circle with that Satyartha said that, you were always very kind and protective towards him.
Maybe he got kindness when he hung out with you guys.
No, so it's really interesting. We go back a long time. We were together in our MBA, and I'm here with my daughter who's a great fan of Satyartha and a very, very big fan of you, Imtiaz, who's into theatre herself. So I think the book is really interesting. I've got my copy, and I'm going to buy another copy for your signatures.
So, very good. Indeed, that.
Satyartha, firstly, congratulations. Me and Satyartha have been colleagues. And Imtiaz, you may not remember, but at a different point of time you addressed us in Tech Mahindra. And you addressed us.
Yeah. You have videoed it.
That responsibility was me who gave it to Satyartha.
Okay.
We need someone like Imtiaz to talk to us. Because the revenue went up, it was thanks to you. So, but Satyartha, great job, because every time I used to speak to him, he'll say, "मैं किताब लिख रहा हूँ करके सर, क्या कर रहा है?" So कुछ टाइम पास है, मेरे से बात भी करना है, तो ये बता रहा है. But I think fantastic work, Satyartha, and I think you inspire a lot of people, saying that you can write in spite of not being a celebrity. A lot of people write this kind of life stories, but they are normally attributed to celebrities. I'm not suggesting you're not. If you're waiting there, but but the other point with you, Imtiaz, is well, I'm from Jamshedpur, so a lot of my friends know you and Anushil and others.
Very well.
So I don't want this to become a Patna versus Jamshedpur conversation. But how much of your films are influenced by these two cities, if at all?
Well, I feel यहाँ पटना वाले लोग ज़्यादा हैं, तो पटना की तारीफ करते हैं, हम लोग अलग से मिलेंगे. But I feel that I owe almost everything of value that I have to Jamshedpur. Because
I hope someone's recording this. I want to send it to my
No, we are going to fight over this.
now you're gonna
Son of the Patna sauce.
कुश्ती होगा. But so yeah, but Patna gives a language to me. Patna gave me a language. Patna also gave me appreciation for. Patna is a very like a you step back and look at the world kind of outlook. And you see that present in most people in Patna. So I think that I get from there, language I get from there. I also get a certain sense of sophistication and a certain sense of ordinariness. What I mean is, Patna is not a glamorous city. If you're proud of being from Patna, you don't say that to anybody. For instance, you compare that to Lucknow. तो लखनवी लोग जो है, ये लोग अपने लखनऊ की बहुत तारीफ करते हैं. लखनऊ की तारीफ करते हुए इन्हें शर्मिंदगी का एहसास नहीं होता. ये people are not thinking, they don't judge them for praising Lucknow. But if somebody praises Patna, then anybody who's outside Patna, outside Bihar, will judge them. That ये कैसा बेवकूफ आदमी ये पटना की तारीफ कर रहा है, इसको तो छुपानी चाहिए ये बात कि ये पटना से है, right? However, there's a lot of value there. There's an old sophisticated system. So I think that gives a lot of value to me. I think I've drawn a lot of value from there. And Jamshedpur, the thing about Jamshedpur is that it's very multicultural, as you know. There are people from all kinds of places in India and also some international people. So it gives you exposure and it gives you a sense of, like there are so many swimming pools and golf courses and billiards tables and, people from all over the country. So I, from my childhood, have been stepping into homes that belong to Parsis and Biharis and Odiyas and Gujaratis. So the whole experience of being in India came through very nicely. So the fact that people are different culturally but can be the same on a one-on-one level is what comes from Jamshedpur.
Satyartha, many
Yes.
congratulations. It's
Thank
a
you.
lovely book and I managed to read it by the end of the day, sort of the afternoon, and when we came here, it's a lovely book. And I wanted to tell you कि इसमें कुछ points हैं जो मैंने mark भी किए and I thought I should ask you as to what that meant. And first thing is that you are so kind of connected, so beautiful to your family, like your extended family and your friends, and how beautifully you maintained those relations with each one of them. It's truly remarkable in today's day and age, let me tell you. So kudos to you for that. Secondly, the way you kind of describe each and every event, it's sort of sometimes you go self-depreciating, but I would say, you should not, and you are hardly mediocre, because I think that's the way you kind of stood out in this book. That I know even though it's your first book, but you've done a great job. And one thing which I just couldn't understand is because in two places mentioned about the Dutch courage. I don't know what that is.
वो जब बहुत ज़्यादा शराब पी लेते हैं तो साहस जो आ जाता है, उसी को बोला जाता है Dutch courage. So I displayed it in spades in the past, but I've given up alcohol, so that's why the disclaimer. So yeah, I've displayed a lot of Dutch courage after consuming copious amounts of alcohol, and I'm not proud of it.
Can I say something?
Please, Honey.
By this age, once we've crossed 50, we really come to know life and people a lot better. So
But Honey, you are only 32.
Yeah, I agree with you, but still. So, when I was in college, I don't think I knew you that well. Then being in that WhatsApp group, and your Dutch courage, you used to write a lot of things, and I've not been very active on the group. But whenever I read the things that you wrote, I felt that's hard, And now after your book, I really feel that you're a good man. And ultimately, a good man is guided by God. So I'm very confident that you will do very well in this sphere as well. Now about you, with a lot of respect. Satyartha, we are beating you hollow. You've watched Rockstar twice. I can't count the number of times I've seen. And I have two very beautiful children. We are all adults. So whenever we find time, we actually designate time. My daughter, she's in Maika, Ahmedabad. Whenever she comes, she says, Mom, find some time, we'll sit and watch Rockstar. We actually want to watch that movie. It's like therapy for us. So we've seen it, I don't know how many times. And I think whatever work I've seen of yours, apart from the fact that you're very successful and very respected, I think you have the most beautiful mind. And the one word that comes to my mind when I see your work is love. Just one word. And I think love is the strongest force. It's the only force that can create life. The way you brought it out in your movies, especially in Rockstar, for example, when you defy scientific knowledge, you defy logic, and how a touch can heal. The way you've depicted that. Sometimes we just pick out scenes from the movie, me and my children, just like that. And sometimes Rockstar is playing while we are just sitting and, spending time with each other quietly. You can give each other company even quietly. And now, about the two of you, I think it's very nice to see such a beautiful friendship. And again, I'll say that at this age, after we've been there, worked hard, done well, not done well, we actually want to lead a life where we have a few people in our life who we can just sit and talk to. And I think both of you are very lucky to have each other. I have a few very close friends. And I think this is actually the biggest gift and boon, to have somebody who you can sit and talk to, who you can not talk about your problems, but generally talk about life, talk about love, and you both have a very similar streak. Because I think, from what I can sense, you're both very good men, very good human beings.
This guy,
so, whatever we can see on the outside. So, and also very blatant and bold. So when you have somebody who you can talk to about things generally over a cup of coffee, बाद में सबके बुड्ढे होके दो कुर्सियाँ टेबल के आगे पीछे बिठा के बैठना है. I think that is the biggest turning. So you've got it.
Thank you. Thank you, Arvind.
You might want to invite me.
Yeah. So. Okay, Brahma. And then we'll see. invite Andrew. I hope you're getting all of the Hindi slangs because I got some Aussies. So this hard work is not quite appropriate, but we'll invite you.
Okay, so me and Imtiaz and Satyartha have been in the class together. So at one point of time, so spent some years together.
हमारा क्लासमेट था
Aniruddha Brahmachari.
अरे यार क्या बात कर रहे हो यार, amazing, amazing.
So one good question. Same, बदल बैठा था.
Wow, that's amazing.
5, 6 we sat together, I think.
Yeah, 5, 6.
5 and 6 we sat together.
Amazing.
So my question is that we, both you, all of three of us, maybe come from that generation and milieu of things. Where Patna was different, the cultural milieu in the country was different, and everything. Milieu and the value systems were completely different. So what has of that value system or the milieu or the cultural, what you call say exposure, that carries you now in this world, which is certainly completely different with social media, the whole world has changed around us, country has changed around us. What are those things that really still carry on and that makes the difference as you go along? Those values from those times or the cultural exposures for those times which you're carrying in this journey?
I think there's हमको जो लगता है literally after the 5th or the 6th standard.
8th के बाद मिलते हैं.
I think एक चीज थी जो हमारे जमाने में बहुत होता था, वो ये था कि हम लोगों को ना हमारे पेरेंट्स ने बहुत एक तरह से पाला है जिसमें none of us were allowed to, मतलब none of us was spoiled. और पेरेंट्स ने काफी एक रिस्पेक्ट सिखाया हर चीज के लिए और खुद के लिए सबसे कम. यानी कि because of that we had the ability to respect everybody else and think not much of oneself, not have too many needs, and हम लोग therefore as a result हम जैसे लोग अगर मान लो कि हम चारों को कहीं मिलना होगा, हमको ऐसे जमीन में बैठ के ही बात करना, उसके beyond we don't need anything for ourselves. The ability of not needing anything for oneself is something which I think is generational, given to us by our parents, and that is really amazing. That हम में से ना कोई भी ऐसा नहीं है बंदा जो खुद को कुछ समझता है कि हम बहुत कुछ हैं. So I think that is an ability.
I have a question.
बोलो.
Okay, so I have admired your craft through and through all these years. So one question which I have always stuck with me since you said that how humans think is not linear, but when you write your story, do you think of the character first, the emotion of the world around it?
There is no order. I feel usually क्या होता है कि there is something that I might have seen in life and over a period of time thought about it a lot, and then I just start to write without purpose really. That there is this person and I'm writing about that person. I'm not aware of who she is beyond what she's doing at that point of time, and then as she works herself into another situation, I write that as well, and then I become aware of character and plot as it goes forward.
Imtiaz, can I share a secret? Arjita, I hope नाराज नहीं होंगे इस बात से. Everyone seen the film Highway?
Yeah.
So Imtiaz wrote it on the fly. I met him in Ajmer. As usual, he always makes time. Kitna bhi busy hoga, he made time for me. So Highway, just to exemplify, Imtiaz had his laptop open and I'm going to charge for all these internal, secrets. He was writing on the go, shooting on the go. That's how Highway was born, and to me, it's one of people. That's why, and it is one of his finest. I love most of his films, but that's how it came about. So this just endorses what he says. This is how he thinks. I shouldn't let too many cats out of that.
Satyartha.
So, Satyartha
क्रिकेट की बात आप कर रहे थे, तो मैं बोलूँगा कि सत्यार्थ का एक निकनेम था, शायद आई डोंट नो एनीबडी को यहाँ पे पता है कि नहीं है, हम लोग इसको पाटिल बुलाते थे और वो पाटिल संदीप पाटिल के नाम पे था, और बिकॉज उसका लेग साइड गेम भी बहुत अच्छा था। तो मैं जब घर से आ रहा था तो हम लोग बात कर रहे थे, तो बोले किसके पास जा रहे हैं, अरे तो मेरा छोटा भाई है, क्योंकि ये 4 साल मेरे से छोटा है। तो हम लोग 20 साल बाद शायद मिले, 20-25 साल का एक अंतराल आ गया था हम लोगों का। और मैं जब सत्यार्थ से मिला, मेलबर्न गया था, और सत्यार्थ केम एंड पिक मी अप एट द एयरपोर्ट एंड टुक अस होम, तो मेरे को लगा कि ये 20-25 साल गुजरे नहीं हैं, मतलब इस तरह से वार्निंग मिला। और जब मैं ये बुक पढ़ा तो मुझे लगा कि मैंने एक वर्ड यूज किया था, मैंने लिंक्डइन पर पोस्ट किया था, ऑथेंटिक, एंड आई जस्ट फेल्ट कि ऑथेंटिसिटी in Satyarth you is such a tremendous quality that I felt throughout this book. And the other quality that I find in Satyarth is his large-heartedness. ये मैं अपने बच्चों को भी बताता हूँ कि सत्यार्थ एक आदमी है जो कि रोड पे चलता हुआ भी किसी को देखेगा और ये करेगा तो वो हेल्प करने को तैयार हो जाएगा। बहुत कम लोग होते हैं इस तरह आज के ज़माने में जो उस तरह से बिहेव करते हैं। So I just wanted to share sort of like a couple of my experiences. But इम्तियाज जी, मैं आपसे एक क्वेश्चन पूछूंगा कि आपने बोला कि ये बुक तो अपने लिए लिखो, बट मूवी जब बनाते हैं तो शायद आप ये सोचते हैं कि मैं आप अपने लिए बना रहा हूँ कि मेरे को दुनिया के लिए बना।
शुरुआत तो अपने से ही होती है, फिर जब वो आप बिकॉज वो एक कमर्शियल प्रोजेक्ट है और एक बहुत एक्सपेंसिव चीज होती है फिल्म, तो फिर आप सोचते हो कि अच्छा फिल्म लोगों तक जाएगी तो उनको पसंद आएगी, बट द फर्स्ट ऑडियंस इज योरसेल्फ।
I think, yeah, Talish is going to get very upset.
No, I won't get upset. We just have a small.
She's my feisty sister.
Sorry, but I'm in charge for the timekeeping, so I'd actually like to just, if you can just be seated, and if you could all pose with the book, and that would help.
So without asking everybody else to move in, there's actually a very special guest in the house, and I did want to have the honor of introducing him, and maybe he can represent the other side, because I think there's been a lot of talk about his journey when he started out. But I do believe, as someone who has greatly supported the Australia-India story, we have with us Mr. Andrew Robb. Now, for those of you who may not be aware, Andrew is one of those who is very well known in Australia as one of their most successful ministers of trade and investment. And any of you who are aware of the India-Australia trade story, you should know that he was one of the primary first starters of the ACTA agreement that has come about. So, Mr. Robb, can I just ask you to please step in?
Well, thanks very much for this opportunity. It's a great privilege, and it's not easy to follow that panel discussion. I've got to say, it was really insightful, and it was entertaining, and it said to me, "You made a good call, Andrew, to accept the invitation to come along tonight," and with the other reason I'm here is that not only did Sheba, my good friend and business colleague, invite me because she's very familiar with our author here tonight, but also I've had a 25-year relationship in Australia with the Australian Indian diaspora. And it's been, for me, a very important part of my life. I've been here 12 or 14 times to India, often so much on business, but I've seen quite a lot of the country and dealt with a lot of the people who were making the decisions and driving the country, but also had the great privilege of seeing people in their everyday lives doing what many are doing, trying to make a living, have a good family, have a holiday, enjoy their life, and not to have a life of fear and worry. And that's, for most of us, that's the most important thing. And it's often under challenge, and that's why I admire, having been a politician now, well, I'm no longer, but I was involved in politics up to 40 years, and to see those, many of them, who might disagree, and I disagree with often many in my own party, but you did admire the fact they put their hand up to try and make things, most of them, on both sides of politics in Australia, and I think it's true in many other parts of the world. This great democracy, I think, is true. Most of them, their motivation is to make things better. And anyway, it's one of the reasons, but it was part of that I did meet, I think it was in Melbourne that I live in Sydney now, but I met Satyartha in Melbourne briefly some time ago, and it was a passing acquaintance, but he struck me as infectious and also non-judgmental, and I liked him straight away. And when we came tonight, I thought that judgment was pretty right, and so I was really keen to hear what he'd written, and I really am looking forward to the book, and even more so after that discussion here tonight. But I also found that he's quite cerebral, right, and that'll be a good thing too. I like people who've thought about what they're writing about. Okay. The other thing is, I was keen to come because I understand that he taught a great Australian cricketer, Greg Matthews, everything he knows about cricket. I think that's true.
We'll let more know that.
But could I just move, because I understood the book was, and it clearly is, a book of reflection. And I thought this gives me 3 or 4 minutes to reflect on the Australian-Indian relationship, because I was born in 51, not long after, I'm not sure when independence was, but 47, not long after the independence. And just very briefly, I want to flick through, because I think from independence through to about 91, you could say the relationship was one that could be best described as indifferent on both sides. And for all sorts of reasons I'm not going to go through, but that was the case. And then I think ever since once India opened up in 91, and this is true so many countries through history, once they open up, things start to happen. Good things, lots of good things start to happen. And a lot of it in the early stages was very transactional, I think. But the last 15 years, 20 years has been transformational, in my view, the relationship. And to me, it's now built, the strength of that relationship is built on sort of 3 platforms, I think. The first one is of course, the geostrategic, very, very important. We want peace in our time. We want the opportunity for our kids to get on with life and make a family and have a good job and to be able to relate to other people in other parts of the world. And that requires peace, and it's not easy. It's not easy, and we We all know the sorts of pressures that are out there. But I do think we share, as two countries now, a very clear-eyed view of the importance of having a strong security Indo-Pacific strategy that we share. And there's a lot of things that we've done things to try and make that happen in the last 20 years between ourselves on both sides. The Quad's a very important part of it. If you want to get something done, you've got to keep doing things to make it happen, right? Not just hope it will, because it won't. We've also, in that context, done things, even like trade, it increases the supply chains between our two countries. And what that means is that there's, from my experience, and I've done lots of the trade agreements around the region between Australia and other countries, when you have the agreement, all of a sudden, literally millions of small businesses start having relationships with businesses of small business elsewhere. And then all of a sudden, people are doing business, and then they realise those people are not much different to us. They're just very like us. They're good people. Most of them, you get a bad one here and there, but they're mainly good people, and they share the same ambitions as us. So those supply chains, it not only is of practical importance when there's things that are difficult with other countries, if you've got to maintain this great relationship, but it also builds, in my view, an understanding of one another, and that is a really important thing in building peace and enjoying one another, enjoying the differences between one another, when you know the underlying motivations of people, ambitions of people in both countries are very, very similar. Second thing is that economic engine of trade, and we've got to a free trade agreement. It took a lot of work. It ran through and in opposition to a lot of thinking over decades and decades. It's happened. I'll just give you one example. When that free trade was struck 2 or 3 years ago, the value of trade in agriculture, the year before that was signed, was $1 billion. The value of trade in agriculture the very next year was $2 billion. Right, so this is what happens. It encourages connections, and it's a wonderful thing. It means what India does well, I've found, we need, and what Australia does well, India needs, very complementary economies in lots of ways. Finally, and most important, is that the other platform is the social anchor that the diaspora provides. And we've got now 1 million Australian Indians in Australia. That's 5% of the population. That's the second biggest diaspora in Australia. We're a multicultural country. 50% of our population is first or second generation, right? But a lot of that first and second generation are Indians. And I just say it's overwhelmingly what's impressed me is the ability, their capacity to integrate in our country in such a profound way. It's the values that are shared so much, I think, that drives that. The importance of family, the innovation, the work ethic, the integrity, and the friendliness. These things have made that diaspora very important to our community. And I just want to finish up with a story in that regard, which tells me more than anything about our relationship. It's to do with cricket. It's to do with a one-day match was held in Australia, held in Victoria mainly. It was a world championship just a few years ago, one-day match. And we got to all the matches before, and it got to the semi-final. And the semi-final had Australia playing India. And I went to the match. We're playing at the MCGs, 100,000 people. I'd say, there'd probably just be about 98,000 Indians at the match. They'd you'd come from everywhere, from around this country, flown in, but we already had 1 million Australian Indians who were just as enthusiastic. But the match, it was just, of course, it was pretty quiet. You made just a little bit of noise. Anyway, it was unbelievable. The noise, you couldn't hear yourself think. the enthusiasm, you know, I've been to a lot of Indian matches and things. It's again infectious, but you know, there's so much enthusiasm and all the rest. The only problem was Australia won, and I was thinking, I'm getting to a serious point here. I was thinking, you know, what's going to happen next week? New Zealand were already in the final, and Australia had just won, was going into the final. And I thought, I bet 98,000 tickets are held by Indians. You know, this is going to be a very quiet, this had no atmosphere. Who's going to barrack for either side, you know? So I turned up the next week, and sure enough, the place was overwhelmingly, the audience were Australian Indians or Indians that had come in to join the match. And the thing was, all day, they barracked as hard as they did the day before for Australia. And I thought, this tells me two things. Firstly, that you can, and it's human nature, you never stop loving the country you come from. You never. And there used to be an expectation in Australia, if you come, you've got to, you know, disown where you came from. That fortunately is gone. But it convinced me, you can love, you never will stop loving your own country, no matter where you come from and how long ago it was. But you can also love where you come to at the same time. And that's the relationship we now have got in Australia, and it's fantastic. Thanks very much. I'll finish. I'm going to get back to the author. The congratulations on this effort with the book. It's I wrote a small one at one stage for a particular reason. It's not easy. It's really difficult. So I'm really looking forward to it, especially after that panel discussion. All the best to all of you. Thank you.
Once again, thank you to all of you, an absolutely lovely and engaged audience, for being a part of this book launch. I'd also like to give a round of applause to Katika and its staff. Can we have a big round of applause? The tea and coffee has been sponsored by the very, very lovely Motley Brew that came in and served. So I would really encourage you to give them a round of applause as well. And you know, we have our musicians that are there. Please, you know, they carry a part of our intangible culture, and I think it's always important to be able to give them the respect. So do reach out to them after the event. But once again, on behalf of Talishka Tehelnama and Katika, I thank you for making the journey to this part. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is a bit of tea and refreshment. Otherwise, your transportation towards the Hamdard corporate office where you joined in from is waiting for you. And let me know if you have any trouble. We'd be happy to help. Thank you.
Oops.